It's your girl Sascha, the Hello Realtor with eXp Realty and the agency team Oahu, your senior real estate specialist. And today I have the honor of introducing my good friend and insurance partner, Renato Oliva with Transamerica and World Financial Group. He's a member of our Air Force and a father of two beautiful girls. Renato lives out in Florida now, but he's still my go-to guy when it comes to insurance and retirement planning. Today, he's here to talk story with us about long-term care insurance, Medicaid, retirement, and what you need to know about your own health insurance and how to plan ahead. Just a little background about my own experience working with Renato and insurance. As many of you know, I did get my insurance license this past year, and he's the guy that helped me get there. And he actually did set me up with my IUL, my funeral package, long-term care insurance, and set me up with the attorneys to get my living trust established. As a realtor, I also saw that so many of my homeowners, especially first-time home buyers, were not covered in case something happened to them. And, you know, there's insurance on the house, the mortgage, even on the title. But what happens when you die and the house isn't paid off yet, right? So all their hard work is gone in probate and the family's left with stress. So I did realize that there was so much value and a need for these products and services. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could do that too? Well, turns out that I hate selling insurance. It's hard. And my passion is with real estate. But I'm glad I got to learn about it and understand it, because it's still something that I need to guide people with. So we're here talking with Renato, and he's going to help us understand a little bit about it. So, Renato, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy schedule to help us understand. Yeah.
Aloha, Sasha. I appreciate it. Aloha to everyone out there. Thanks for having me. I really am honored in being your guest today. And yeah, what a great month to do it. It's Women's History Month, so good on you for doing that. And thanks for
Oh,
having
I didn't even know that.
me.
Go girls.
There you
Okay.
go.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay. Right on. So just a little bit of story time. So we have a little bit of background. My whole purpose to this project is to help plan ahead for our seniors, and when we get up into senior age, because our on Oahu, in Hawaii, but on Oahu for sure, we do have a housing crisis. We have a housing shortage, and our seniors are actually hit the hardest with this because our homes are not built out to accommodate us medically when we need a wheelchair or a walker, or need help from our family maybe, or maybe want to downsize. So there's a lot to talk about, but one of these subjects that I've come across that is just not talked about is our health insurance. And so a little bit of background about my grandparents. Their names are Ken and Flo. You might have seen their introduction videos. They had dementia. They had health issues. Basically, APS, which is Adult Protective Services, like CPS for kids, for adults, had to get involved. They ended up in the hospital, never to return home again. They didn't even know they were leaving for the last time their home, and ended up in the hospital. Within 6 months, my grandfather had passed away there, but only after they figured out that their regular insurance didn't cover any of the hospital bills. They needed to implore Medicaid and Medicare, and in order to do that, all of their assets had to be sold off, because Medicaid is actually welfare. It means you ain't got money. So they had to sell the house. Luckily, my father was able to buy the house from them. But I mean, we had to go through conservatorship. We had to go through guardianship. There's a whole lot of things, basically living probate, which is also something that we are trying to avoid, which is why we have our trust attorney set up. So really important for everybody. In the end, part of the problem was they couldn't find two beds together for that could provide skilled nursing care, and they were separated. and within 24 hours of them trying to separate my grandparents, my grandfather checked out. He's like, okay, well, I'm done. And he went on, passed on. And then my grandmother lived another, like, well, it's been about 4 years, 5 years since then. So, anyway, uh, we're going to talk to Renato now, and he's going to help us kind of understand a little bit more about insurance planning and what we need to consider and really seriously understand and plan for when we do come of age and we need these services. And Quest doesn't cover it, and sorry, even your insurance that you're paying through your job isn't going to cover these services. So these are what we're here to talk about today. So Renato, thank you so much again, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, that's really touching, and in ever since I started in this field, uh, about 5 years ago, I've started hearing more and more about situations uh, like your grandparents, and it's a shame that this happens. And I spent 5 years in Hawaii, living there and seeing how this happens a lot more on the island and in the state. And it's unfortunate. It probably happens more there than a lot of other states in the country, right? Even on the mainland. So it's very unfortunate. And that's why, it kind of clicked for me. And I'm pretty sure it's why it clicked for you uh,
Mm-hmm.
as to the importance of having something established that could protect you. Because, like you said earlier, a lot of people have insurance on their phones, they have insurance on their shoes, they have insurance on different things that they may or may not need it for, but yet they have it there just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's not just in case, right? Death. And so why not have that protection on something that's going to be there to take care of your family when you're no longer here? And on top of that, now there's upgrades, right? Like just like iPhones, just like Galaxy, Android phones, things like that. There's upgrades to those, right? Nobody's walking around with the same iPhone 6 or 7. They might be, but they're not probably not that happy. um, uh, and maybe they have this, they're not walking around with the same Android, from the first generation, third generation. So why don't they have some kind of upgrades on the types of coverages, the types of financial stability that's out there now?
I
And
think what the problem is people just don't have any idea that they need it or don't have it.
that's exactly right. Unfortunately, and we're probably going to talk about this a little later too. A lot of people don't have a financial professional, right? And that's a great segue into that, is because a lot of people just aren't they aren't exposed to this kind of thing like the wealthy are. The wealthy are exposed to this 24/7. And so what happens is that creates two different families. You have a family A and a family B. And unfortunately, family B is only 5% of middle America. And so Wall Street only talks to these folks. These are folks that uh, are affluent and more educated in their financial status and stability. So, so I'm glad that you're doing this. And like I said, I'm really honored that you have me here, and thank you for sharing your story. I
Thank
appreciate
you
that.
for being here. Thank you for even, having the heart to serve and you know really want to help people understand to protect ourselves. Like because I didn't realize what I didn't have until like I got it, and then now I'm seeing my statements come in, and I'm like, oh. Oh, okay. Well, man, I'm not, life is really hard, but at least when I pass, like my kids won't have to worry so much because I put some things into place, and so, yeah,
Yeah.
tell us what we can do.
No, you did great by getting yourself started, by getting your family and yourself situated. So you're probably gonna make you're gonna be that your name is probably gonna last a lot longer than a lot of other names in your family, just because you made that difference. So I'm proud of you for doing that. That's really great. So
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, just I guess a little bit about me, if I could just give a little bit of history and background on me. Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I am still serving in the Air Force Reserve. I've been in for going on 24 years this year. It's
Thank
pretty
you so
crazy.
much.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored. I'm glad I made it this long. But I worked for most of my career in the medical field. So I took a long time taking care of people medically. And I've always been involved with finances some way, somehow. I've always wanted to be very in the know on how to get myself ahead and help my family and stabilize that for my children. I have two daughters, and I think they're going to be very well taken care of when I'm gone. So I'm very happy to do that and leave a legacy instead of a liability. So
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what else our kids are getting besides the money when we die is the education so that they can keep going with it, right?
that's it.
And so,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
it's
You guys
definitely
don't know
more.
how many meetings I made my son sit through with Renato over and over, and they
Yeah.
act like they ain't got no sense. But like later on, when I'm not there, they're gonna be like, "Oh wait, what did she say?"
Yeah, no, it's a lot more. It's worth a lot more than money, right? It's worth a lot more than materials. It's knowledge.
Giving
Um,
them the fishing pole.
yeah, and they're they think it's boring right now, but when I told my daughter, she's like, "Oh, this is so boring." I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's not going to be boring when you're broke, you know. It's
Right.
definitely going to be some topic of interest." So, you know, um, again, everybody talks about financial freedom and financial independence. And those two are two different things when it comes to how you talk about it and how you see it with your mindset. You know, when you have financial freedom, you're talking about something that's more than just money, right? You're talking about your time and your liberty, and you don't have to worry about things. So it's not about the paper that you have in your hand. It's about what you can do with the things that you have in place, assets, protection, all that stuff. So it's amazing to know and learn about this kind of thing. I learn every single day. It's not like, hey, I just got licensed and now I'm good and here we are. It's like it's constantly changing. It's you have
Which
to.
is why I don't do it anymore. I let you do it because it's just like it's a brain gym for sure.
Yes,
Yeah, you
yes.
gotta really have a
Yeah.
heart for it.
No, and it's become my passion. Like I said, I've traveled around the world. I went from healthcare to wealth care, and I'm really devoted to doing all this. Yeah, I use these little cheesy lines, but it's something that I really stand by. It means a lot to me. My parents came here. Um, they came from Peru. My parents are Peruvian. I was born in the States. And I saw the struggle. My parents didn't speak any English when they arrived. My mom was pregnant with me, and they had to learn everything from the ground up and learning a new language, figuring out how the system works. They never got taught finances. They were never introduced to any of this kind of stuff. Um, and so I want to do for people what people didn't do for my family, my parents, right? They didn't know anything about this. Imagine if I would have learned about this when I was 20, right? I would be a millionaire, right? And it's our duty to kind of do that if we can. I know there's things that come in roadblock, and people, not everybody has to be a millionaire, but having the wealth in general, wealth in health, wealth in finances, wealth in family, wealth all around, that's what matters. Your happiness, right? Your fulfillment. And so that's why I do this now a lot more. And that's why it matters to me to talk, especially when you and I connected. It was just really cool. I saw your heart, and that's why I always appreciate when you do this. And I always appreciate when you invite me to talk.
Well, who else is gonna do it?
Nobody else likes me. So
Well, just real quick, you said if you knew when you were 20. Okay, the thing is I started kind of learning about all this stuff around age 20. I'm like 44 now,
Wow.
so like the last 24 years. But it's even though I was learning about it, and I mean just different wealth tactics, like Robert Kiyosaki, though, learning about money and how to relearn about money, really. But not having the background for the first 20 years and then learning about it, and like, you know, if I knew back then, well, I was learning it back then, but it's taken all this time to be able to grow into it and build it, because you're doing life and like trying to just survive on what our, I don't want to say our government, but our, you know, our society has taught us to know about money and finances and wealth and career and all these things. So it's just, don't feel bad if you just getting it now, because I've been doing it for the last 24 years. I'm still trying to figure this out, but you know, that's why we need to change it for generations. And so, okay,
you know,
well,
and if I could, going along those lines, you know, there's a couple of things in there, right? Number one, we're not the only ones who, I like to call it the Matrix, right? If you've seen the movie The Matrix, probably one of the
I
greatest movies
totally
ever.
believe in the Matrix.
Right? Oh, okay.
Totally believe that it's real.
Right? Well, I mean, imagine this. Imagine a world where you were told most of your life where to put your money, right? And people were telling you always, you know, put your money here, put your money here, put your money here. It's going to grow. It's going to go. Yeah, you might take a risk. Yeah, it might drop. Keep it in there. It's going to grow. Don't worry. It's going to. And imagine your entire life living like that, and you thinking, you know, I can't afford this, right? Imagine you thinking, this is too hard, or this is too boring, or, you know, imagine a system where when you graduated high school or while you're in high school, you feel like you have to get a full-time job, and you feel like you have to get a car, and you feel like you have to get a credit card, and you feel like you have to get personal loans and student loans and things like that. Imagine a world like that. And then all of a sudden somebody comes to you and says, hey, take the blue pill or take the red pill, right? And then one of them is going to keep you in this world where you're just used to the status quo, right? And that's the way you live. And this other pill is going to take you to down a rabbit hole that's going to show you freedom, that's going to show you a different way of doing things. Imagine if that was something that somebody came to you with and really, really hit home and said, okay, and they stuck with you, and they guided you, they mentored you, they coached you on how to really do that. That right there is something that we don't have. Why? Because, like you said earlier, it might be the system, it might be the government, it might be society, it might be something, but you know, there's that disparity right there, and we're trying to change
The
that.
bubble we're in, we gotta pop it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people are too afraid. They're too afraid to make that change. They're used to being comfortable, unfortunately, and we're here to kind of change that, to kind of shake them up and kind of say, hey, there's more out there than what you see. You know, those books are great, that you read. It's just, you know, implementing it, right? And people have to do that even though they don't have too much money, right? Even though it's maybe $10 or $30 or $50 or $100, because when you do that kind of stuff, when you don't have money, right, before you become a millionaire, before we become a multimillionaire, then when you become a millionaire or become a multimillionaire, you've created those habits of growing and saving and expanding, and
Yeah.
you know, those words of compound interest come to mind and things like that. So yeah, I agree. Don't feel bad, but and it's never too late, right? I mean, it might click, and you might create it, and you might do immediate massive action, right? And then boom, all of a sudden you're making a huge difference, not just in your family, but in your community. And I know that's what you're looking for. So yeah. So sorry, I get a little passionate and happy with these kinds of things, but it's really good to be here.
But this is the reason why I picked you, because your passion and your drive to help people, you know, it's unbeatable.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So just a little bit of statistics. Here in Hawaii, our senior population is considered age 50 and up. So it's not like retirement age 65. In this scenario, 65, you're kind of like late. We want to start planning now. Yeah. So it's age 50 and up. Here on Oahu, our senior population takes up over 60%. So we're already saying there's, all these statistics saying that by 2030, we're going to be outnumbering our kids. We already do. Here on Oahu, we already do. We have a shortage of beds, of nursing care facilities, and like I said, just places for long-term care. But our subject today is insurance. So Renato, can you talk a little bit about like what is long-term care insurance, and why do we need to be aware of it, and why do we need it?
Sure. So in general, long-term care insurance is something for that purpose, right? It's something that where you're going to need care for an extended period of time, right? Usually 90 days or more. And it's important because there are a lot of ways that people they get hurt, they need something, they need some type of coverage, and they get stuck in wondering, what can I do, right? There's different assets that you have, right? You have your savings account, you have your checking account, you might have a 401k or a TSP if you're military, a 403b if you're medical or a teacher, right, in the county. You might have stocks and things like that, and your home. You might even own your home. And if something were to happen to you where you needed some type of long-term care and you couldn't bathe yourself and you couldn't dress yourself or you couldn't feed yourself or you couldn't walk or go to the bathroom, right? I don't know if I said dress yourself, but that's another one.
Transporting.
Transporting, right? If you couldn't do those things on your own and you needed the help of somebody in your family or somebody who's a professional, right? And you needed to stay somewhere, which one of those assets would you want to pull from to pay for that kind of thing? And in Hawaii, it's pretty expensive. We were looking at, cost of care. If you go to costofcare.org, or it's just insane how much it costs for Hawaii residents on to go live in a long-term care facility or have somebody come to the house and provide some kind of care. So, it's definitely something that you want to look at. Long-term care is literally that. It's just something that you need in case something happens to you and you need care for more than 90 days.
So, okay. So for long-term care, wait, my mind just went blank. um, so, as far as cost goes, if you're looking at a nursing facility and you need that kind of care, $15,000 a month, and to have a nurse come to your home and do it is like about $9,000 a month. So that's here on Oahu. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's
That's why my grandma had to sell, because by July of 2016, they had been in since January 2016, July, my grandpa passed, and then my grandma ended up in the nursing home. And in order to pay for that, like, first she had to use all her savings, right? And then the guardian and the conservator and all these people who got involved legally, because it was like a legal probate, right?
Mhm.
Had to go in and like sell the house, and which lucky my dad was able to get it, but like she wasn't even in the mindset to be able to make any of these decisions. And my grandpa is the one who would do all of this their whole life. So, if and he tried, he really did. He had a funeral plan. Guess what? Between the time he died in 2016 and she died last year in 2023, that funeral home went bankrupt. And so now, when we went to go cremate her, there was no longer a plan.
Wow.
So we had to go move mortuaries, and it's just like this whole thing. So there's a lot that you need to consider. And one of those things that they didn't even know to think about was the long-term care. And if we had had a policy in place and had the house in a trust, none of this, we wouldn't have gone through half of these headaches, you know?
You're right. I mean, and those go hand in hand. You definitely you mentioned earlier about trust. Yeah, if you don't have your home uh, in some kind of trust, or you don't have something established, I highly recommend somebody does that. Especially when you own assets, you definitely want to have a trust, because a lot of people say, "Yeah, I have a will, I'm good. No, there's not a problem." Well, guess what? The state overrides the will. And
Your will still has to be proven through probate.
that's right. That's right.
So, but
And
if it's all in a trust, then it just happens.
yeah,
And this is a real good reason why you need a trust too. If you have insurance policies, this is one of the main reasons I got it, because I don't have a house yet. This is Dad's house, but I do have a very high value insurance policy that my kids are going to get if I die. If I die today, my 6-year-old's getting that money.
yep.
Now, an insurance policy is just going to pay out the beneficiary. Okay, that means she's going to get a lot of money, and what is she going to do with it? She don't know anything about. She can't even add a dollar yet. So it's in the trust, and it's going to be managed until they're of age to manage it themselves. So that's another really good reason why you need a trust. And then that also is going to explain and tell people what's going to happen to your kids besides their money.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
When something happens to you, and you just want to be able to plan ahead and put all your term policies in there. Renato, you can cover that, 2 term policies to cover the mortgage
Sure.
balance of the house and all that good stuff. But I'll let you talk a little bit more now about specific policies that we need to be aware of. And do you need this slideshow?
No, not now. I think we're okay.
Okay.
So yeah, you have what's called if you own a home, it's definitely good to have what you like to call mortgage protection, right? We call it mortgage protection. Why? Well, something happens to the breadwinner or the homeowner or the person that makes the most money in the house, or if you and your spouse or your significant other make about the same amount of money, right? What's going to happen if one person is not able to be around to help with the costs, right? And so that's usually what happens, because about 42% uh, of households will suffer within 3 to 6 months after the loss of somebody that's in the house that you share costs with. And so
That's huge.
yeah, mortgage protection comes into play when you look at different types of policies with insurance, right? You have term, which is something that's something cheaper, but it's a short term, right? And that's why they call it term. You have term policies that start off within for 5 years, and they go in increments of 5, so you can go 5, 10, 15, up to 30 years. And you can always start off with something small like that in case you're on a budget and you just want to kind of feel it out. I always recommend a term with living benefits, right? I mentioned earlier about upgrades with insurance. A lot of people might say, I already have life insurance. I don't need it. It's okay. Whatever. I've had it for 20, 30 years. Da, da, da. And I always ask them, do you, you stick with the same phone? Do you stick with the same pair of shoes? There's always upgrades. And this is the newest, the latest, and the greatest with insurance. Even with term policies, there are term policies that have living benefits. What are living benefits? In case you have some kind of chronic, critical, terminal illness, some companies even include Alzheimer's and dementia in there. Now, infertility, that's like a huge thing nowadays, right? So anything that somebody might qualify for while you're still alive, you can actually leverage your life insurance. So now it's gives the purpose of calling it life insurance, because now you can use it while you're still alive instead of death insurance when you use it when you pass away, right? Your beneficiaries get all that. So something small like a term policy is always good for people who, they just want to feel it out and see what it is, or they're on a budget and, like that. So mortgage protection. Going into other types of policies, you have other ones that are whole life, right? Which last up until age 100. They have a little bit of cash value. You can always leverage that. You have variable universal life. You have guaranteed universal life, and you have an index universal life. Those are all permanent types of insurance, and those types of insurance, they last to age 120. I would love to ramble on more and more about deeper into the types of policies, but I think if you guys want to know more, you definitely want to talk to a financial professional. I would love to help you out and give you more information on how that works. And I'll give you guys my contact information to do that. I'm sure Sascha will do too.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a financial professional, you definitely want to talk to one.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so can you talk a little bit more about estate planning and like getting your trust set up and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's I might work around insurance and do most of that stuff, but the great part is that I don't just do that. I have connections with different lawyers. People like annuities if they like different types of things, IRAs, stuff like that. We can always help people out with different types of situations, college planning and stuff like that. But estate planning and living trusts are huge because, again, you want to make sure that those things are pretty much protected and they're managed. I like to create the whole person concept, right? When it comes to planning everything throughout anything that could potentially come up in life. So when you talk about estate planning and funeral planning, things like that, you want to have that protection and and create some kind of plan where, what's going to happen when I pass away. Do you want your family to deal with mourning, or would you rather them deal with figuring out how to pay for, how they're going to do the funeral arrangements? What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably don't want that, and I think a lot of people don't want that, but it happens that way. I've seen it where funeral homes, somebody asked me the question, how much does a funeral home cost, funeral costs, at certain funeral homes? And the answer is, I don't know, because, it might be a certain amount for this, but guess what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to upsell you on everything. Right. And
They'll play
everybody,
on your emotions.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Everybody's,
Don't you think they deserve a prettier casket?
that's
Don't they
it.
deserve to have
Have a dove flying in the air for what's her name?
butterflies and
Yeah. So they use that, and people want to do that, and it's nice. But what if you had something in place that already had that established? Do you want to get cremated or buried? Do you want a certain type of casket? Do you want a tomb? What do you want the tomb to say? Right? Do you want a viewing? And what do you want to have in the viewing? So these are all questions that a lot of people just are really reserved about asking and thinking about, because obviously it's death, right? You get
yeah,
scared.
we don't talk about death too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
You don't want to think about, that's the last thing on everybody's mind, believe it or not. It's statistical fact.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we need to normalize, though, because in 2024 we're still afraid to talk about it. Like,
Right. Yeah.
And then we don't have plans set in place, and then the government comes in and takes all our money
That's
and
it,
taxes
right?
and probate.
Whatever. But
good citizen.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny because everybody has a FIN, right? A financial identification number, and basically
it's called an SS.
That's it. That's it. And so once that SS is gone, they got to figure out how they're going to get their money, because they just lost somebody a nice little payment of their government. So,
yeah.
So estate planning is important. And there are a lot of people are worried that, hey, I have this health condition. I might have, I may not qualify for certain things or whatever, but there are estate plans that don't require a lot of those things, and you can qualify for something that's going to at least cover, your estate planning and your funeral arrangements and things like that. A trust,
at a minimum, you guys, at a minimum, like, don't make your family go make GoFundMe pages every time. So, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
man,
GoFundMe is not a plan. It's
It's
not.
not a plan.
No, no.
And then it's kind of like a weird number. Like, how'd you come up with $10,000? What?
Right,
Why? What do you
right.
need that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. Oh, just to give to the family for the kids. Okay, well, how's about let's secure our kids before we go.
right.
Let's be proactive about this and not leave our responsibilities for everybody else, thinking that's just what happens. We die, they'll make a GoFundMe and they'll have a big party, and then my kids, let's
Yeah.
not do this. Let's
Mhm.
let's start again, and we're gonna teach you how to do it. Okay, you guys.
Yeah.
So Renato,
Yes, ma'am.
most people have never met with someone to discuss retirement or insurance or other future planning. Um, how can someone prepare to meet with you? What do they need to know? When they do a consultation with you, what can we expect?
That's a great question. A lot of people, I'll say this. Um, does it make sense to go 10 years without seeing your doctor? Right? Probably not. Um, and I know some people probably skip it, they don't want to see their doctor every year, but you're probably going to see a doctor every other year or something like that, depending on, how your health is, right? Well,
Ladies, get your mammograms and your pap
that's
smears
it.
done.
March Madness, here we are with ladies wellness. Rich
Right?
Ken
It's that
reminded me
month.
there's a wellness, women's wellness going on at the end of this year that we're going to host. So I'll send you that flyer so you can get some folks on there. But it doesn't have to be just women; it could be all genders. But yeah, it's for Women's Month. But it's funny because, like I said, a lot of people don't they don't skip their health visits, but they don't look at their financial health, right? And they don't
Mhm.
schedule financial visits with anyone. So, a lot of people probably never even spoke with a financial professional before ever. And some people, if they
Not
have,
even their banker.
advice. Yeah, they're not right.
Yeah.
So, so definitely, I always recommend at least doing that once a year, and getting with one of us, or if you have one already, get with somebody like that. And you know what? To be honest with you, I would compare, just like people compare realtors, just like people compare second opinions from their doctors. Get a second opinion from a financial professional. So definitely, if you have one and you're kind of like not sure, talk with one of us. We can always help you out. It's not going to cost anything. We give a 30-minute free consultation. What you need to talk with one of our folks is just kind of have your finances arranged. And anybody that is actually going to reach out to Sascha to kind of schedule an appointment will actually give you a worksheet where it can provide you a free, like a quick financial needs analysis, and you kind of break down all your expenses and where do you have your money parked, whether you have it in tax deferred accounts, tax advantage accounts, or tax now accounts. And we just kind of sit down and we just kind of do a quick review. We look at 6 different areas and we establish like what could be better for you, or where you're probably having too much money parked. You can probably repurpose some money,
Mhm.
or just say, hey, you're doing a great job, keep it up, and we'll give you a nice pat on the back and another free consultation later on down the road.
And
But
a free ebook.
that's it. We'll give you a free ebook. We have lots of goodies, and we're always providing wealth information, not a wealth of information, literally wealth information, to our clients and anybody who kind of meets with us for at least a 30-minute consultation. So
And don't be afraid. Okay, like you're gonna have to. I think money is one of the hardest things for us to really take an honest look at. And I find this a lot, not only with insurance and stuff, and like looking at our own personal finances, but every time somebody like has a dream of wanting to buy a house, and then I tell them it's time to talk to a lender, and then that's kind of where we'll lose some people, because it's like you have to take a real honest look at what you are doing with your money, and but we're not here to judge or anything like that. It's just here to help. So Renato's really, really great at just helping you to understand, like you said, where you got your money parked and what maybe a better road for you to drive down would be with that, So, um,
And Sasha, if I could add one more thing in there, sorry, I know you're going to ask one question, but when like being medical, right? If somebody had some type of rash, and they never got it seen, and then all of a sudden that rash goes from a little spot to all across their arm and their chest and their face, and then we find out that it's something that you can't cure or anything, or goes deeper, you want to avoid that. So for me, I always compared it to bleeding, right? If somebody had a cut and they were bleeding, you had to stop the bleeding. You had to put a tourniquet, you had to wrap it up, you had to do certain things to stop the bleeding. I'm trying to stop the bleeding out of your pockets, out of your bank accounts, right? So you have to look at something sometimes, even though it might be ugly. You definitely want to take a look at it and at least have somebody give you their opinion on it. What you do with it is up to you. And there's, like Sasha said, no judgment, no pressure. We're not doing timeshares here. If you want to run with it, great, and if you don't, then great.
yeah. And by the way, if anybody is out there that knows how to get out of timeshares, hit me up, because I got people trying to get out of timeshares and I'm trying to find the guy who does that. Okay. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's a different type of real estate, man.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one day.
Okay. Well, Renato, thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate your time and your passion to help people. And like, I know you've helped me secure a legacy for my children. So it's super awesome. And everybody, I hope that if you don't have your own financial professional, you'll reach out to Renato or myself. I'll hook you up with him, get you in contact, and help, get us set up for our future, for our generations.
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sascha, your EXP realtor. Blah, 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 cut, paste. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm your girl Sash, the Aloha Realtor with EXP Realty and the agency team Oahu, your senior real estate specialist. And this is Senior Living Hawaii. Remember, home is where aloha is. Aloha.
Aloha, everyone. Great job.
Where's my mouse? Stop. And recording.